This black man was murdered yesterday. Let's call it what it is. It's murder. There's no excuse for it.
Check this out.
Before his death, Williams wrote a final handwritten statement seen here that reads, quote, "All praise be to Allah in every situation," end quote. Governor Parsons is ignoring a ruling by the Supreme Court, the state Supreme Court, from 9 years ago. He's ignoring a ruling by his predecessor from 7 years ago. He's ignoring prosecutors. He's ignoring DNA evidence. And on top of it all, the victim's family didn't want him executed. This black man was murdered yesterday. Let's call it what it is. It's murder. There's no excuse for it. And I'm going to tell you why. If there's DNA evidence that contradicts what prosecutors asserted that led to a conviction, that's a valid point to stay in execution. If the prosecutor himself, herself, themselves acknowledge that based on evidence that can now be refuted, there should be a stay of execution. That's another reason not to execute the man. If a former governor, as in Governor Eric Greitens, Greitens, Eric Greitens, he is the predecessor of Governor Mike Parson. He granted Williams a reprieve. He was persuaded by arguments that new DNA evidence, new DNA testing exonerated Williams. He did that years ago. Remember, Williams was twice spared from execution, first by the state Supreme Court in 2015 and then in 2017. So let's get this straight. Now, according to reports, and I'm about to speak to somebody to find out whether or not they can verify this or not, the victim's family was against capital punishment no matter what. But nevertheless, look at that preponderance of evidence. Think about that for a second here. Think about the kind of stuff that we're talking about. How could you possibly justify executing this man? To this day, we don't have a justifiable explanation from Governor Parson. Because the board that was supposed to investigate the matter and hand down a ruling was something that was disbanded by him. Did you just want to kill a black man? I mean, it's a legitimate question to be asked. Is it all right that you just murdered him? Is it okay that he was potentially innocent and you didn't give a damn because the word potential doesn't matter to you? What was it? What was it? I mean, you talk about some nonsense right here. This is why we have a country that's so divided. This is why we have a country that looks at things in two different ways, because you can't come together on a damn thing. Who can't come together on this? When you got a prosecutor, when you have evidence, when you have a former governor, when you have the state Supreme Court, all giving a ruling in favor of staying in execution, and you still say, bump that, the man dies, and have him killed by the state via lethal injection in front of his family, when a man proclaimed his innocence and stayed that way for over 20 years, and you do it anyway. You don't give a shit. You don't care. I'm not one of these people, ladies and gentlemen, that's diametrically opposed to capital punishment. I'm one of those people, depending on how heinous the crime, and it's finite and definitive that you are guilty, particularly if no contrition or no remorse was shown, I have no problem with you dying. Zero. But only under those conditions. If there's a scintilla of doubt, you don't do what Governor Parson did. And to do something like that and to make this decision, it's criminal. It is an absolute crime. And I can't even tell you how sad I am for Marcellus Williams' family, because he went to his death proclaiming his innocence. And he had an abundance of people and institutions supporting him. And the governor of Missouri didn't give a damn. You might be able to sleep well at night right now, sir, because you appear to have no conscience. We'll see how long that lasts and whether or not that truly comes back to haunt you someday.